Yep.
Okay.
And Jeff might be joining us here, Nick.
Jeff Bajorek?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
cool.
saw that.
I've not met him yet.
It was funny. I didn't realize that I knew who he was um, until his.
Kelsey.
There's Kelsey.
Excellent.
All right, so Kelsey, we are YouTube live. So if you have any questions about this as we're going along, you can YouTube live it. I have no idea how to tell you where to find us on YouTube live, but we're there. We are now recording. So I'm going to stop this recording and on Zoom, and we're going to
Thank
start
God Kelsey's here.
again. Yeah.
We have one person joining us. I love it.
I was just going to say, guys, so if Kelsey or anyone speaks, none of that is going to go
Get
on to
recorded.
live, I don't think, right?
Correct, because she's not set up this way. So she will
Right,
not
right,
be
right.
recorded. So if she asks a question, then we will have to repeat the question.
Got it. All right.
Okay, so we are now recording live. We are on YouTube live. We're on Zoom live. This is the, I don't know what number installment of the Hypergrowth Banter Show. And today is going to be a showdown, a blowdown between Nick Capozzi and Jordana Zeldin. It's going to be crazy. So let's see what happens. Whoa, look at those guns. So you got to check it out on YouTube. We got tattooed up. Smiling. So I don't know who has a better smile. Whoop, there we go. I don't know who has better smile, whether it's Jordana or Nick. Surely
It's
not
Jordana.
me. Yeah, it's just definitely
I don't
Jordana.
know, actually, in the smile department, Nick.
No, I don't know. You both got it. So anyway, so here's the deal. We were talking, and Nick has this belief that I can use my B2C relationship building skills in the B2B world. And Jordana is saying, no, you can't. Right?
Fight.
And it's a fight, right? So that's the idea. I have some alternative perspectives that I'll maybe drop throughout here. So let's go through this. Jordana, let's start with you first because this was our crazy idea, and then we'll let
Yeah.
Nick go.
Yeah.
When you look at bonding a rapport, what is it? Why should we care? And how do we do it?
Okay, that's a good question. So first of all, I want to clarify that I do think that some B2B skills, or B2C skills rather, including rapport building, can find a home in B2B. I think what's challenging for me on the kind of quote unquote rapport building front is when we as sellers, especially new sellers, are told that the very first thing they have to do in order to successfully build a potentially fruitful relationship is talk about sports or talk about the weather or what the person did on the weekend. And I think what's tough is that a lot of folks, especially there are two clients that come to mind in particular that I work with, who really find that to be painful. They're sellers because they want to help people solve challenges and problems, not because they're looking to make a friend. They don't believe that their prospects are there to make a friend, at least not in the first 2 minutes. And my belief is that in absence of authentically connecting to this idea of having to quote unquote build relationship in the first 2 minutes of a conversation, that it's really our job as sellers to move as fast as we can to what matters most to our prospect, why they're there, to being curious about their circumstances, to contributing helpful insights, leaving them better, more informed had they not spoken with us. And out of that attention and care about what matters to them, investment in what matters to them, relationship and quote unquote rapport develops. So it's a bit of a chicken or the egg question here, Bryan.
Okay,
No, it's
so
not
let's.
chicken and the egg. And get out of my corner of the ring. Stay in your lane, Jordana.
Speak, sir.
So here's what I'll tell you. My take on rapport building is I want to have as many arrows in my quiver as possible. I'm not looking to force something, but I am going to throw my line in with some bait and see if anyone's biting, right? Or opportunities where something is brought up that because I put time into researching, I'm able to drop something that they're not expecting and catch them off guard. And my whole take with rapport building is that if I'm one of 10 products that is trying to sell into an organization, I'm trying to build a champion on the other side, right? However that happens. That's the overarching view for me, but it's got to be completely authentic to you. So I'll give you an example, Jordana. The first time you and I ever had a conversation, and
Yeah.
I do this for everybody, I spent a few minutes going through your LinkedIn profile. So one of the first things that I brought up to you was, hey, I saw you studied film and television. That's interesting. I studied radio. How do you use that in sales? It was one of the first things you and I ever talked about. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
Right? The dynamic. And then we started talking about Canada. You're like, oh, I'm Canadian. I was actually born in my husband's Canadian. I dropped that with other people when we're talking about you, Jordana, when you're not there. And they're like, I didn't know Jordana was Canadian. I'm like, I know, right? Because I built rapport. So
yeah. Yeah.
but again, that's all I'm trying to do is I have things in my arsenal that I can pull out if the opportunity arises. But there's a lot of tells. I mean, there's so much gold in people's profiles. And I was actually just in another conversation and I got into an argument with someone because I was saying there's gold in mutual connections. Bryan, how do you know so and so? Because we assume it's industry people. But the reality is it can get way deeper than that. And I would say probably in about a third of people that actually take the time to go through and look at mutual connections, I'll find a couple that, you know what, maybe there's something there. So, I've told this story a couple times, but I was talking to someone and I said, hey, I noticed you connected to Dale Morris. How do you actually know Dale? And it was actually Christine Rogers from Aspireship. And she goes, oh my gosh, I worked with him for 5 years at Infusionsoft. He's great. How do you know Dale? I'm like, Dale's my brother-in-law. That was in the first conversation Christine and I ever had. And every subsequent conversation went in a newly defined direction based off that one commonality. So that's it. That's my position. Find commonality that's authentic to you.
So let me try to bridge the divide here. Ready?
Oh, Brian,
so
we can't hear you.
Son of a gun. So let me bridge the divide here. Here's my suggestion. When we look at bonding rapport, aren't we truly trying to build an environment of trust, comfort, and credibility at a peer-to-peer level? I mean, that's really what we're attempting to do. And so there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. One is, and I broke it down into these ways. One, communication. How do they tend to communicate? So Jordana, the example that you gave, that person's likely more of an introvert, type A personality if you look at PI, or that high D, high C if you look at a C type of personality or D type of personality on the disc. So they're going to communicate completely differently than what somebody is going to on a I or an S or some other type of whatever personality style that you're going to use. So that communication style is going to be a little bit different. So that goes into the communication, but then we also need to be present. And I think one thing that you really do, Nick, is that presence, right? You're going to pick up on whether or not that person is engaged in the path that you're taking. Are they participating in the conversation? Are they gaining value from it? So it's that active listening, that mirroring and matching to be able to roll off of their lead. And then most importantly, I'd think it goes to mindset. Are you truly doing it to uncover and to serve them, to problem solve, or are you doing it to be manipulative, right? Because we all do this naturally, but why not do it intentionally? I mean, if I'm out to a dinner with you or hanging out with you, we're going to have the same body style and mirroring and matching because we just do it naturally. So why not to start off do it intentionally if I have the altruistic intention of doing this to better communicate, to find out if you have a problem that I can solve. And if I don't have a problem that I can solve, I'm going away. And there's a whole bunch of tactics that go along with that we can get into. And the last part of this, so communication, presence, tactics, the last piece is relevance, which is meeting them where they are and really determining what's in it for me. Can you sit in their shoes to show that relevance, meeting them where they are and saying, hey, what's in it for me? How can I reduce risk, better my time and money? So that's kind of the way that I look at this bonding and rapport. So let me just be quiet and get some feedback off of that.
Well, I think all of that's really interesting, Brian. And it sounds to me like you were talking about rapport as something more substantial than where you're from.
Yes.
Let's say. And, when I think about, and it's tricky because we all have different definitions for what rapport really is. But I think that sometimes when especially new sellers think about this idea of building rapport, they conflate it with liking. I need to be liked as soon as possible as a salesperson, because that is going to help me do my job and win more deals. And I think that what you mentioned, Bryan, was related to trust. And, I don't think the idea of rapport is going anywhere, but I prefer to think about a deeper rapport being connected to trust. And when it comes to building trust, there's a lot we've got to do to make someone feel safe enough, right, to be doing business with us. That's connected, and we've talked about this, Bryan, to feeling seen and heard, like we're genuinely curious about their circumstances, that we're offering up helpful ways of thinking and solutions, for some of the challenges that they're facing. And out of that behavior, those sets of behavior, come trust. And I think that getting stuck in the liking trap can be dangerous. I mean, we've all been in sales conversations where we've done such a good job being liked that we kind of end up in the friend zone, and it becomes really hard, as you've called it, Bryan, professional visitors. It becomes really, really hard to do business from that standpoint.
Great. I want someone to feel terrible about saying no to me. I want that. I do. Because here's the thing. Well, no, but here's the thing, right? Bryan might not be buying from me today, but if I've made a compelling argument to Bryan and I've started to build traction on a relationship with Bryan, is Bryan going to think about me when what I'm selling pops up in the next conversation he has, right? And to your point, Jordana, you said salespeople want to be liked. My perception is people buy from people they like, but people like people who like them. I'm not trying to be liked by the prospect. I'm trying to show the prospect that I'm a relational person and I'm interested in learning about them and liking them. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier of finding these common points, these touch points with people. You'd be shocked at what people put in there, like professional accreditations, right? Or, hey, I went to this 8-week contract negotiation course at this Ivy League school. Great, Bryan, what did you learn from it? What was the key takeaway? Like, what do you use every day that made it worth it for you to spend $3,200 on that course? Or, Jeff Bajerick is listening right now. Hey, Jeff, I noticed in your accreditations that you're a professional golf instructor. How did you start playing golf? Where do you play? How do you play in Michigan when it's snowing, right? You want to come down and visit us in Arizona? So, but
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, Nick, what's interesting to me about you is that it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your interest, these questions come from a place of genuine and authentic curiosity.
Yes.
It's not a tick box for you.
It's not.
Okay.
But if you're in sales and you're not relational, right? I mean, then it's tough being in my experience, and I can only tell you from the people that I've trained in a very different, very unique industry. Right. It is not tech. It is not SaaS. It is not B2B. But introverts, I could make them technical sellers, right? They could be the technical person that was part of it. But the ones who did the best were the relational sellers, the ones who wanted to talk to people. And, I still, for me, I talk to a lot of salespeople every day, and most of them are wired to be relational. It's again, just my thoughts and experience. I don't come across a lot of introverted. Now, I might be selling to an introvert. That's a different story, right? But if you're a salesperson and you're not relational, I think you I don't want to say limit yourself, but in my mind, I'm thinking technical. Okay, how do I make Bryan, who's maybe not relational, into a technical asset for the sales team?
I want to understand, Nick, from you, the relationship between extrovert and relational, or introversion and relational. How are you thinking about those?
Just going to go there.
Okay. Pardon, Bryan?
I was just going to go there because I'm thinking Jeff probably has a real key insight, and Jeff, we'll pull you in here in a little bit. And Terry, welcome. We're doing a recording right now. This is a hyper growth banter, and we're really diving in on relational selling versus where's bonding rapport fit into this. So so your thought, Nick, to Jordana's question, relational versus being an introvert.
Well, I'll put it in, this might not be a great analogy, but I'll put it in the context of a restaurant, right? The introvert is my technical person who's in the kitchen being the chef, whereas I'm going to be the relational extrovert who's outside being the maitre d', right? Because I really want to hear. I'm actually curious about how Mrs. Smith's day went, right? So yes, there's no question that relational and being an extrovert are tied. But in my mind, maybe I just haven't met enough introverts who I felt were truly relational and relationship builders, right? Maybe it's even, and I'm just popping off the top of my head, but extroverts are more likely to go out and find that relationship commonality, where with someone who's introvert, it might take me a lot longer to build that relationship just because we aren't dialoguing on the same level.
Yeah, so let's hit this. So from a tactical perspective, let's get into some of the tactics because I have a couple of here. So let's hit with you, Nick. What are the tactical ways that you would suggest people to build this rapport?
So are we talking like a cold call, like the coldest of cold calls?
However you choose.
From my perspective, if it's a cold call, going through and finding, Easter eggs or nuggets of gold in their LinkedIn profile, and they're there, right? You just got to get into the habit and the cadence of doing that. And what's interesting, when you get into that habit and you actually start using these techniques, when I find out that you're from Western Pennsylvania, Bryan, well, I learned in another conversation just yesterday that there's actually skiing in Western PA. I didn't know that. Do you ski, Bryan? Right. So it becomes this database, this personal database of talking points that you can have. So that's one way I'll always try and dig in. And sometimes if it's a cold call, I'll reach out and not talk about at all what I'm selling or where I'm from. Hey, Bryan, I noticed you're connected to so-and-so. Do you actually know so-and-so? And, when I do that, especially with a video, especially when I personalize it, yeah, I wish I actually had pulled up my data on this, but the replies and the opens that I get on this and the interaction that starts and the conversations that start, then they start asking me the questions. They come back to me and say, oh, you're with sales pitching. Oh, you guys focus on selling with video. Interesting. You know what? I was actually having blah, 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 blah.
Right. So, but what you're really doing there is you're meeting them where they're at. Right. So that's what you're doing. So you're building trust by meeting them where they're at and finding their common interest. And you and I have even had this conversation. So let's pretend I go, yeah, skiing. Got it. Yeah, we have it. If I answered you like that, then what?
Awesome. Right into the agenda. Or ideally a story that's going to lead me into the agenda of how I can, make my client or the prospect a hero. But if you close the door, no problem. And that's like being in sales. That's like taking rejection. That's like someone saying, no, I don't want to buy your product. Okay, cool. I don't want to be the fish that bites on that lure. Okay, cool. Let's go into the agenda. No problem. Right. That transition is really the key thing. And that's something that does take repetition and practice to do.
My feeling there is that, our prospects are hardwired to resist salespeople, to be wary of us, to resist influence. And I feel that if, in the context of our meeting, Nick, like you weren't really selling me anything. We were just, two coaches shooting the shit and getting to know each other. So I didn't have any of that resistance coming in, and none of my antennas went up when you called out the fact I studied, film and TV in England. But I think that, as in the selling context, especially in B2B, when we're approaching prospects, there's already this inherent wariness. And for me, the, hey, where are you from? Or, what'd you do on the weekend? Like in some ways that to me puts us as sales, like it creates a steeper hill for us to climb in the true deep trust department. I mean, tactically speaking, Bryan, for me, and it's funny because I am a natural rapport builder. So I don't think of it as a tick box. So it's kind of funny to be having this conversation. But for me, it's like, if you're a seller where you just don't have any inspiration or don't feel that interested in small talking in that way, I like to dive right into agenda that's like, look, in order to make this time as helpful and valuable for you as possible, I put together a kind of agenda that can serve as really a jumping off point. And it's like our job, I think, especially in B2B, I know B2C is different, Nick, is to build relationship by showing our interest in delivering value and helping them get to where they need to go.
So I'm with you, and I'm not arguing any of that. But I was in a demo for a client
Yeah.
about a month ago, and there was 6 or 7 people on the line from their side, and 3 or 4 from our side. So you're looking almost a dozen people all told. There was 6 minutes of dead air. 6 minutes as they were waiting for everyone to get on the call. Other than, oh, we're just waiting for so and so. Now I was new, so I wasn't saying anything. But what I was doing was I was pulling up on the other side all 7 people's LinkedIn profiles, right? And when it got to minute 5, I'm like, hey, Rachel, I see those palm trees behind you. Are you based in California? She goes, that's funny you say that. I am from California, but I'm actually in Florida right now. And what happened was in that 60 seconds while we waited for everyone else, the dynamic of the whole room changed, right? You don't want it. Well, who wants to go into a cold room? That's no
No
fun.
one. No
I'm
one.
Canadian. That's why I live in Arizona. It's warm, right? I'm just trying to warm it up. But I think when we talk about rapport building or like taking stabs at this, hey, Brian, I see you're in Chicago. How's the weather? Well, that's bullshit, right? If you're asking about weather, but you know what I'll tell you? Hey, Brian, you know what? I noticed you're in Chicago. The first thing I do when I land is get an authentic, hot Italian beef, wet with extra hot peppers. That's it, and I walk away. And either they bite at that or they don't. But because I've gone through the profile, I've also now seen that this guy is a associate hockey coach for youth hockey. Awesome. I'm checking the score of the Blackhawks game, right? This all happens in 2-3 minutes, literally 90, 120 seconds before I actually get on this call. And if we start going down that path, some of the biggest sales I've had, I didn't start talking about what I was selling until the very end because they wanted to talk about whatever door it was I opened, right? And just to go back to your point about being a friend, I'm not going to let them become a friend. They will in time, ideally, because I'm also looking for that referral business. Even if they don't buy from me, I want them to know what I do and who I am, right? But I'm also not afraid to say, okay, so Jordana, let's do this. You getting this? Let's go. Let's move. You want to move forward? Great.
So let me hit 2 things on this. One of the tactics on this is pre-call plan. Right? If you don't have a plan whenever you're going into this, you're in trouble. So one thing that you're always doing, Nick, is taking 2-3 minutes before you even go in. So you have a plan, but then you're also able to adapt off of that plan based upon that personality, based upon their style. The only thing that I would disagree with, and it's because I've gotten burnt in the past, is I've oftentimes, back in the old days, I thought that you had to be liked to be able to sell something, and that is a critical key piece. So don't mishear me. I think being liked is cost of entry. But I didn't understand the difference between being liked and being respected, and I blew too many opportunities because I bantered on or socialized too much instead of getting down to business. So I would rather be respected, and liking somebody you respect is a lot easier as opposed to being liked, because I can like somebody but not respect them. And so that's my only little nuance there, but that might be a personality style for me.
Well, if I may answer that, Jordana, and that's a really interesting point, and I'm with you. But here's the thing, and this is one thing when I am working with people on demos, is I tell them you need to control the room. It's your meeting, your stage, you're the boss. Did they show up as a guest? Yes, but that's your room, and you need to run it like your room. So if I'm going to, dip my toe into the rapport building waters, ideally I'm there for 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. If it's really going in a great direction, I'll let it go. But then all eyes are back on what I'm doing. All right, let's get into the agenda. Let's get into this demo. What questions can we answer for you? And I think that there's, I want to be friendly, but I'm going to be respected by being the guy that is holding the microphone. And maybe it's all those hours on a stage on cruise ships, but if I'm holding the microphone, it's my conversation, it's my room, and I need to run it as such, right? I need to be confident, and I need to know what I'm talking about. I need to know my product. I need to know it up, down, left, right. I got to make sure that I'm tight on that, right?
So let me maybe give a nice little bridge between these two. So if I don't know if the person's more socially engagement, and that's the way I need to build trust, or more like it seems like you and I are, Jordana, maybe that more type A, get right to it, and that upfront contract or whatever we want to call it, is the way that we build rapport. There's a really cute, really good tactic that we can use. I call the 3 Ps, and it's the past, present, project the future. Right. So the way that we do this is, hey, tell me a little bit about how did you get in this? or what got you into this position? That gets the person to start talking about them. And the best way to get somebody to like you is allow them to talk about themselves and how great they are, right? Because it's all about them. So if we think about the with them, what's in it for me, getting them to talk about themselves is the best way. Then as you transition into current state, so you go, well, tell me a little bit about what keeps you busy. What are you working on today? And if they take it to a family path, if they take it to a social type, well, you got to play the social path. If they take it to work, then they're more type A, get stuff done type of thing. So you talk about work. And then you say, hey, well, project for me a little bit in the future. What do you have coming down the pike? What are you watching out for? And that starts to transition into the business conversation, because I think that's where so many salespeople mess up, is they don't know how to transition from the building of trust, comfort, and credibility at a peer-to-peer level through that rapport building into the business conversation. So that hop off right there is a really nice transition. So that's kind of the tactic that I find that allows you to go more social or more business. But either way, I found that it builds trust with people.
I also think like there's a real opportunity to build rapport in the realm of their business. So rather than saying, "Hey, I saw you're from you're from California. How's the weather today?" or whatever. And I'm not saying, Nick, that's your go-to, but just as an example, there's an opportunity to have done some research into the business and say, "Hey, I just saw you guys completed your Series C. How's that been going?" Right? And I often tell clients do this who don't want to get immediately into the meat of the meeting, but who still want to quote unquote build rapport. If you do it in the realm of business, then it's going to be such an easier and less uncomfortable transition to then move into to why you all are there.
No, that's a very good point, Jordana. And there's a great hack. If you use Sales Navigator and you're searching for people, one of the tabs has, a number of people who've been mentioned in the media or in the news in the last 30 days, right? So there's great riffing points there. You want to get someone's attention who works at a company, put their CEO's name in that email or in that thing and say, "Hey, I noticed that so-and-so said this and this. Well, this is interesting because of," right? You want an open rate? That'll open it. But Bryan, just to your point, if you walked into a meeting with me and you type aid me and went right into rapport building, my camera's off and I'm doing something on another screen and I have you there half paying attention. But if you somehow pulled me in those first couple minutes, people buy from people they like. I feel more committed to you and listening to what you have to say. And I'm going to pay better attention to what you say if you've, greased the tracks a little bit.
I want to come back quickly, Nick, related to this idea of people buying from people they like. You had mentioned that you want people to feel uncomfortable telling you no. Now, this might be a point of departure for us. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, here's the thing. If someone's going to be uncomfortable telling me no, well, that's what I want. Of course, I want someone to be uncomfortable telling me no. I want them to say, "Nick, you know what? This is a hard conversation, but you know what you did? You made it really easy. Nick, you're making this conversation easy," right? Because I do make it easy for them. But what happens is then, "Hey, you know what, Bob, do me a favor though. Who you got in your network that you can refer me to?" Right?
See, it's interesting. No, I think the referral piece is right on. But, for me, a big part in my mind of building the kind of substantial trust that I think we all want to be building here is in a commitment to transparency at the top. And that includes something like, look, if at any moment this feels not interesting or irrelevant or like the worst product you've ever heard of, I like to always add some humor in there. Do I have your word you'll be straight with me? And I think giving permission at the front to say no is one of the most powerful ways of creating a more open and transparent conversation where you can learn more, where there's less guarded, and where not only are they kind of counterintuitively less likely to say no because they feel safer to say no, but where real deep relationship
You brought that up in your workshop that I attended, and it was brilliant. It was one of the best takeaways I got from it. Permission to say no. Cool. I would verbalize it different than you.
How do you verbalize it? Or how would you? Oh, good. I want to hear from all of them.
So I would just, and you know what, I got to think about this, Jordana, how I would actually verbalize it, because it's actually typically something I don't say, but I get giving them that permission. For me, it'd be something along the lines of I'd make it humorous, but it's almost like I dare you to tell me, but I'll make you smile and laugh while you're doing it, right?
The,
Um,
the only thing, Bryan, before you get to everyone, and I want to hear from them, is that my fear, and this has happened to me as a seller, and I'm sure it's happened to a lot of folks who are listening, is that you do such a good job being liked, such a good job building rapport, that they don't feel comfortable telling you no. They either lie or worse, completely disappear, and you never get a resolution because you didn't create that opening.
you know what? And if someone ghosts me, I'll send them a video and say, "Hey, Jordana, you ghosted me. No worries if you went with someone else, right?" Again, make it easy, but what are
Right.
the doors can you open for me, right? Anyway, Bryan, I'm sorry, man. Let's. I want to see some questions. Who's got questions? Can I just tell you, I was on 5 on Friday last week with Terry. Sharp. Terry, you were great, buddy. You got a question?
Hmm.
Yeah, really good point, Terry. I like that.
Hmm. Mm. Yeah.
But that's rapport building, Jeff. Jeff, that's rapport building. You're doing it mid funnel instead of top of funnel.
It,
Hot peppers.
right.
No,
But I
Jeff,
think, oh,
first of
no,
all,
sorry, go
hold on.
ahead.
Sorry. There's so much to unpack off what Jeff just said. And Jeff, I'm with you on so many levels. Okay. But Jeff, let me ask you a question. When you go to an amusement park, you go to Six Flags, you go to Disney, do you go right or left when you get in the park? And Jeff's gone. Got it. 95% of people in that environment turn right, right? 95%. So if everyone that you're dealing with, if all these pitches, all these cold calls, all this outreach, it's coming to you, right? And it's all the same. It's all the flipping same over and over and over. And whoa, there's a unicorn right there. That's different, right? Did I
Wait a
catch
minute,
your?
Nick.
Okay.
Wait a minute. The unicorn, in my mind, is not that you've done your research about a certain food. To be a unicorn in sales today is to make your conversation and your pitch about them and their needs, not about you and your product. And that is how you not only stand out as a seller, but maybe surprisingly build relationship and hell, even the kind of rapport that we're talking about. But it comes
But
after,
that's my
attending to
point.
needs.
I've said it multiple times. People buy from people they like, but people like people who like them. I'm not trying to be liked. I'm trying to like them. That's the difference.
Is it more powerful? Is it more powerful for you to like them because of some whatever you found out of business, or to like them because you're showing genuine interest in their business, in their challenges, and helping to make them better? No.
Yeah, but Jeff, what if you don't know you have the problem yet? Yeah, but how are you getting to the discovery session if they don't know they have a problem and you're just trying to convince them to get to discovery to see if they have the problem that they don't think they have? Yeah, but no, but Jeff, if you call me and try and figure out a problem I don't have, and I say, Jeff, you don't have a problem for me, here's my solution. You call me back 2 days later, I'm not taking the call.
Well, that I think is the thing. That's the thing, is that if we just like, it's actually a good thing. I take it as almost as great a win to discover there really is no problem or a will to solve the non-problem, as I do that there is, and that we can be the solution, because it's like then you know what's up, and there's no real selling conversation to be had if there's not a problem that you can solve or uncover. Yeah.
Hey, Kelsey, I made the cacio e pepe on Sunday. I really did. I almost took a picture and sent it to you, just so you know. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna go through my camera roll right now, just in case.
What is a vignette? How vital do we feel these are to successful selling?
Now,
Who said that,
sorry.
Jeff? Huge. Yeah. Say more about that.
And one thing I just want to clarify, everything I'm saying, I believe, and everything I'm saying has worked for me, but it's because of how I'm wired. And for a lot of people, I'm just trying to make them be aware that this is something that can be done, because a lot of people I talk to just haven't thought about it from this point of view, right? And it's also it was me being caught off guard. I was shocked. I was caught off guard when in October, coming from 20 years of B2C, I now was in a B2B environment and I was sitting in on demos and I was just caught off guard. It was not at all what I expected, right? So it just got me thinking. And that's it. And all I'm trying to do is say that there are other, there's other options and opportunities, maybe just not thinking about them, right? That's all.
Yeah.
And sorry, Jeff, finish. I apologize. I was just going to say part of it too for me was out of necessity, right? Because I came into this, I didn't have a list of emails. I didn't have a contact. I didn't have people in B2B. All my people were in cruise or luxury goods. I mean, you want two industries that were demolished. So how did I get in front of people? Right. Well, I can't call them at their house or I can't call them at the office. That's the one way I could do it. Well, I can't because they're not at the office. I can, go and buy emails, but then I'm really like trying to, peck at different ways. So I'm like, you know what? Let me use video. Let me use video. And how can I get in front of people and be creative while being authentic and then saying, hey, here's what I do. So it was out of necessity. And I'll tell you this, there are a lot of things I've ebbed and flowed on in the 4 months since I've been doing this. And I reserve the right to turn around tomorrow and say, you know what? I'll say it in a video. I'll say, you know what? I was saying this for 4 months and now I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop saying it because someone shone light on it from a different perspective. And now I have a new opinion. And here's why. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And don't worry, Jeff. Jeff, we're still friends, buddy. Don't worry.
Look, this isn't called a battle for nothing. No, but look, just to clarify too. So, like I said, I am a natural rapport builder, and I'm not anti-rapport. But I want to make sure that as a community, we're making room for people who are introverts, and that we're recognizing their ability to be crazy effective by being super knowledgeable about the problems that their product solves, and by illuminating aspects of their prospects' businesses that they wouldn't have thought of had they not had the conversation with them. So I think that, the common lore tells us that you've got to be a relationship building extrovert in order to be a successful seller. And some of the most successful sellers that I know are neither of those things. And they pay such close attention to what their prospects need, that they win the day.
You're
That's
kidding.
interesting.
Are really, Jeff? That's fascinating because again, this is the 20 years of me on a cruise ship pulling the extra. Oh, we got to have a conversation about this. But
Right.
nah, you're doing great, Jeff. Hey, listen, Bryan, I know you're going to get to Hannah next, but I also want to acknowledge Mike Macchiarelli here, who's also in the room, who also was a veteran B2C guy going to B2B, who has trained over 1,000 sales professionals. I'd like his take after Hannah, and I just pulled all that off his Clubhouse. So.
Mm.
Right. and I'm sure everyone in this room is following Hannah, but if you're not, I am never the smartest person in the room when she's in it. Although I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer on a good day, so I no, I haven't been in a room with Jordana, Bryan, and Hannah before. I'm just acknowledging Hannah. Hannah's content.
Thanks, Hannah.